Good afternoon. Today we're going to discuss the effect of domestic violence in the workplace. As domestic violence has grown to epidemic proportions, it is no surprise that its effects are now increasingly common in the workplace. In order to understand the scope of the problem of domestic violence, you must first have an understanding of what domestic violence is. The National Coalition Against Domestic Violence defines it as the willful intimidation, physical assault, battery, sexual assault, and/or other abusive behavior perpetrated by an intimate partner against another. Domestic violence is pervasive. It influences all areas of the victims' lives, including their jobs. There are a number of direct and indirect costs to the employees related to domestic violence. The widespread increase in domestic violence is having a negative impact on the workplace, resulting in decreased productivity, decreased profit, and creating safety concerns. According to the National Coalition Against Domestic Violence and the American Institute on Domestic Violence, 1 in 4 women are the victims of domestic abuse every year. Domestic violence is the leading cause of injury in females. 1.3 women report being physically assaulted every year. 1.3 million women. 85% of domestic violence victims are female, and 1 in 12 women report being stalked by their intimate partner. This is a power and control wheel. This was created by the Domestic Abuse Intervention Project in Duluth, Minnesota, to create a visual aid that depicts the cycle of abuse in battered women. And they interviewed some women, a number of women, to get the most frequent ways that men used to intimidate, threaten, and harass and abuse them. In the center is the power and control. This indicates the power and control that the abuser has over his victim. The spokes of the wheel are the strategies that he may use to exert that power and control over the victim. He may use intimidation, making her afraid by using looks, actions, or gestures, smashing her things and destroying her property. He may use emotional abuse, putting her down, making her feel bad about herself and calling her names. He may use isolation by controlling what she does, who she sees and talks to, and where she goes. He may minimize, deny, and blame. Blame her for the abuse, deny the abuse, or make light of the abuse. He may use her children to make her feel guilty, have them relay messages, and use visitation as a time that he may harass her. He uses male privilege, treating her like a servant, making all the big decisions, and acting like the master of the castle. He may use economic abuse. Frequently this happens. They'll take control over the finances, not let the woman have access to the money, make her ask for money, and not tell her how much money is coming into the family. And finally, may use coercion and threats. He can make or carry out threats to do something to hurt her. He may threaten to take his own life. He may threaten to report her to welfare and get her in trouble about the children. The outer ring of this wheel just depicts the physical and sexual violence that holds this wheel together. Some of the direct and indirect costs in the workplace relate to decreased productivity. There's an increase in healthcare costs. There's increased absenteeism. More errors are made. There's more employee turnover, and there's physical violence in the workplace. The impact of domestic violence in the workplace is actually staggering. The cost of domestic violence exceeds $5.8 billion a year in the workplace, most of which is related to medical and mental health expenses. Victims lost 8 million productivity hours in a year, and that's the equivalent of 32,000 full-time jobs. After careful review of the literature on the topic of domestic violence in the workplace, it is apparent that this is a growing problem affecting large numbers of people. The widespread increase in domestic violence is having a negative impact in the workplace, resulting in decreased productivity, decreased profit, and increased safety concerns. Productivity may be affected by tardiness, absenteeism, errors, and distraction. The profits of a business are directly related to the productivity and are also impacted by increased health care costs. The safety issues surrounding domestic violence are obvious and can range from pushing and shoving to hitting and punching and to homicide. If you look around this room, 1 in 4 people in this room could be experiencing domestic violence. There is no discrimination by race or by socioeconomic status. Most of the victims are quite skilled at hiding this secret. Domestic violence can happen anywhere, and it does happen at work. Does anybody have any questions?
What can I do if I think my coworker is being abused?
The most important thing that you can do is to listen, to offer them an ear. You may say, hey, I'm concerned about you. Is there anything you need to talk to me about? I've been worried about you. You're not acting like yourself. Give them some open-ended statements that they can respond to without pushing them to answer.
Do victims have any legal rights that pertain to the workplace?
Yes, they do have legal rights. The most important legal right being the fact that they are required by law to be allowed time off work to deal with issues related to domestic violence. That can include going to the police station to file a report, going to court hearings, going to fill out applications for protection of abuse orders, and those types of things. They also have the right to a safe working environment. Is that all? Thank you.